Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Evidence. I'm going to show you how to use Vader sentiment to analyze text and kind of do sentiment analysis. So you could do sentiment analysis just using other tools, but this tool is a pre-built tool for doing sentiment analysis. And basically in this video, I'll show you this Vader sentiment project on GitHub and kind of go through how it works really quickly. And then we'll use it to rank Hacker News comment by negativity score. So basically, we are going to see which comment from Hacker News is like the most negative, and then we can get the average score of each user based on their negativity score. So we'll rank each user based on how negative their comments are. And the blog post for this particular project is going to be coming soon. If you go to evidencen.com/blog, right here, you can get the blog post for this. I don't have it written yet, but I'm going to write this soon. And if you want to read the blog version, it's going to be here. And later I'm going to update the comment section of this video with the blog post of how to do this. That's if you prefer to read. And then the code for this is going to be found at Free Data Science Resources. And that's at www.machinelearningeducation.com/free. And here, this is where I put all my resources. So any resources that I use in my YouTube videos or in my blog post, I put it all together in one place at machinelearningeducation.com/free. I just found it easier to put all the resources under one roof instead of having it all over the place. So anything that I use in my YouTube videos or in my blog post can be found right here. And this is the website for the Vader documentation. So this is the website right here for Vader's documentation, and this is PyPy, and this is how you would install it. And let's just go ahead and look at it on GitHub. So it says right here that Vader Valence Aware Dictionary and Sentiment Reasoner is a lexicon and rule-based sentiment analysis tool that is specifically attuned to sentiment expressed in social media. It's an open source project. And if you go to this page here, you will see they give you an example of how to use it. But what I really want to get to is how they do the score. So it tells you here that the compound score is computed by summing the valence scores of each word in the lexicon, adjusted according to the rules, and then normalized to be between -1, which is most extreme negative, and +1, which is most extreme positive. So the compound score is the most useful metric if you want a single unidimensional measure of sentiment for a given sentence. And we can call it the normalized weighted composite score. So basically, what we are going to be looking at here is the compound score. That's what we'll be getting. And basically, this compound score is the most negative comment will get a -1, and most positive comment will get a +1. If it's a positive comment or positive sentiment, it will have a compound score of greater than 0.05. If it's neutral, it will be between -0.05 and 0.05. But if it's negative sentiment, it will get a score of less than 0.05. So that's just kind of like a brief overview of the compound score from Vader sentiment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and actually start on the project. I went ahead and imported some things. So first I need to actually install it. So here I'm using Google Colab, but if you are working on this from your personal computer, you will install Vader sentiment on your personal computer. But in this case, I'm just doing it with Google Colab online. And you don't have to type this out manually. You could also just copy this right here to do the installation. And this sign right here is basically executing a shell command inside the notebook. That's what this means. So let's go ahead and execute this cell. Alright, so Vader sentiment has been installed. Now let's go ahead and run this. And this is the Hacker News dataset. So basically, if you don't know, the Hacker News dataset is like many gigabytes of data. I had to go through a lengthy process of taking the Hacker News lengthy gigabyte of data to something that I can put on GitHub, to something I can use easily in a notebook like this. In a different video, I'll show you how I use Google Studio along with GitHub large file storage system and other techniques to trim down the Hacker News dataset. But let's go ahead and look at the dataset. So this is the dataset, and this is already cleaned. So the original Hacker News dataset is not very clean. Like the comment is what you're looking at, is not very clean. That I had to like go through a process of cleaning it, and after cleaning the Hacker News dataset, this is what we get. So this comment is already clean. In this video, I'm just gonna show you how to use Vader sentiment to rank it, but I'm not gonna show you how to actually clean the text. That's a whole different video of how to clean text, for natural language processing. So let's just go ahead and also drop this. This is the duplicate of something. I think that's, now let's do Hacker News.head. So this is gone. So basically what we have here is hacker name, which is just the name of the user that wrote the comment, and this is the comment. And of course, this text has already been cleaned, so that's good. So at first we'll just be working with the comment for this. So we'll just say comment is equal to Hacker News hacker comment. All right. And let's just get a preview of the first 5 comments from this. As you can see here, this is like the first 5 comments from our data set here. Now that we have our comment in a variable, it will be easier to work with it. And let's just get a sample to work with here. So let's just say sample is equal to comment at position 0. So basically just the first line is what we are going to be using as our sample data. And this right here is our sample text. So just the first line of comments right here. That's what this is. This is our sample text that we are going to be working with. So I know I already imported this earlier, but just to do this again so that you know where stuff is coming from, I'm just gonna copy this and let's just put this down here. And let's instantiate this sentiment intensity analyzer. So score is equal to sentiment. That's just us instantiating it. And whenever you're working with a new library like this one, if you want to find out more about it, you can do something like help parenthesis score. And right here inside Google Colab, or really inside any notebook that you're working with, it will give you a preview. Well, actually, it will just give you the whole documentation here. So It tells you help on sentiment analyzer, and then it tells you score valence, sentiment valence, polarity scores. It tells you the polarity score, and it just gives you a pretty good preview of the module or the library that you're working with. So this is one trick that you can use to kind of find out what you're working with. If you're working with something and it's not working out or it's not giving you the results that you want, you can do this, just to make sure that you're using the right variables and you make sure you understand what your score means. Let's just get something like the polarity score. So here we know that we can get the polarity score of something. So let's just do something like score dot polarity scores, and let's just do text. Let's just do sample. Let's just use our sample. So it gives us this. So when we do something like score dot polarity score sample and pass in this, and it gives us a compound score of negative 0.996, which means this is a very negative comment, right? So this is a neutral score, this is the positive score, this is the negative score, and then all these three compound together gives you this score. So basically at the end of the day, we can just focus on the compound score. We can just use the compound score to rate each comment. And let's look at the comments real quick to see if we as human beings would agree this is a negative comment. Let's see. So this is not necessarily a, let's say, a positive comment, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a negative comment. It's more of a critique of something, right? Now, I'm not, let's say, reading the whole thing. Let's say, now this comment is actually really, really long. So I understand why this might be ranked as a negative comment, because it uses words like this quite often throughout the comments. So I can see why this is considered a negative comment by the algorithm, So, but I'll say just reading the first few lines, I would say this is more of a critique than, let's say, a hateful comment, if that makes sense. But that's just an example of how the polarity score from Vader sentiment works. And let's just use another one. So let's just do this again, but this time let's just do it for, let's say, comment. And let's do it for comment number 10, for example. And let's see. So this is also considered a negative one. Let's do it for something like comment number 4. Again, considered a negative comment. So let's just say comment number 100. Again. So a lot of this is like getting a negative compound score. So let's just see. I'm just picking random comments to see if we'll get one that's positive. So you can kind of play around with this and kind of see what kind of results you get yourself. But I just wanted to show you how you could quickly get a score for the comments in question. Earlier, I imported something else. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Earlier, I imported something else, but I'm just going to import it again and just look at it in general. So from this, right, I imported sentiment analyzer, but we could also just look at this on its own. I like to also look at like the base modules, not just this thing. So let's do something like help. So basically this is kind of like a full documentation. Well, this documentation right here is kind of like more rich, like more stuff than the documentation we saw earlier. So here I'm just looking at Vader sentiment dot Vader sentiment, and I imported it as VV. And then I'm just in this situation, I'm looking at a subset of Vader sentiment dot Vader sentiment called sentiment analyzer. That's what this dictionary is about. So here I'm also showing you kind of how to look at dictionaries of stuff. Here I could just take this right here, and let's say assign this a variable. Let's just call it S. And then if I want to just get the compound score, because this is as a dictionary, so compound is the key and the value here is the value. So this is the key and this is the value, right? So if I wanted to just get the compound score, because that's what we are interested in, I would just simply do something like I'll do something like S and then compound. And if we execute this, as you can see, we just extract the value, right? The compound value. So if I wanted to run this polarity score thing throughout my whole comment, I can do that. If I want to get the compound score for every single comment, I can just do a for loop that runs through it. So let's go ahead and so I could do something like the ranking is equal to just an empty list, and I'm going to get the ranking, and I'm going to add all the ranking here. So basically, when I get the ranking, I want this to be rounded. So for example, I can highlight this and do something like round, and I want it rounded to 2 decimal places. So we get something like -1 or +1 and stuff like that. And also maybe I want this to, instead of placing -1 or 0.5, I want it to be something like 10, 5, 8. So basically I can put this here, unless I can multiply this by 10. And now what we have is the score, the same score that we had earlier, but multiplied by 10 and 2 decimal places. And the reason why I put it in 2 decimal places like this is so that if we have something like 9.96, 9.95, 9.94, it will be easy to distinguish which comment is saltier, which comment is more negative. If everything is just say something like -1 or -2 or something like -10, -9, then it will be more difficult to separate which comment is saltier. But if we have it like this, if we have it formatted like this, then it make it easier to, let's say, differentiate the saltier comment, for example. So that's basically how I'm going to format the answers. And now let's actually run this. So let's say for I in comment, if you remember earlier, comment is our text. So if I do comment, it gives you the top 5. So basically the comment is where I have all the text, right? And I want to run this polarity score through each of these comments. And this is going to take a while to go through because this is a large data set. I just want the compound feature from that, and I want to round it up. and then I want to append rounded score. So this is going to take a while to run because this is a really large data set. And let's go ahead and execute this. So we have created the negativity score for each comment using this line of code right here. And here you can get a preview of the first 10 negativity scores. So as you can see, it starts with -10 and then negative 9.99. And if I show you like the first 20, for example, you can kind of see that it goes from negative 9.99, to negative 9.98, and then it goes even further. So if you look at the last 10, you can see that it goes all the way from negative. So when we look at the first 10, it was like -10, negative 9.99, negative 9.98. But when we look at the last 10, as you can see, we have positive comment 9.99, all the way to 10. As you can see, 10 is the maximum positivity score you could have. So basically right now I have gotten the scores for each of the comments. So we've basically accomplished the first item on this list. So if you go back here, as you can see, we are going to get the negativity score for Hacker News comments, and we've done that. Now we are going to get the average score of each user based on their negativity score. So I am going to add this ranking to our data set. So I'm going to call it comments ranking. And I'm saying it's going to be equal to ranking. And if I do Hacker News .head, as you can see, now we have comment ranking as one of the columns here. So we've added the ranking for each one of these comments to our negativity score. So now we are going to get the average ranking for each user. And to do that, we just create a variable called average, and we just call it Hacker News .group by. We want to group by hacker name, and we want to get the mean. And in this case, I just want to, let's say, get the first 10 and just get an idea of what we are looking at here. Alright, so basically we have average here. So basically saying that hacker name and then their average rating, their average score. So this hacker right here, this is the average score. This hacker right here, this is the average score. And this average score is based on the comment ranking. So if you actually go through hacker name here, you see that a lot of the hacker names appear often, but the ones that appear most often does not necessarily mean the ones with highest comment negativity. So here we can get a preview of which hackers appear often. So we can do hacker news .describe. So you can see here that this is our top hacker by comment frequency. You can see stuff like that if you wanted to get more information about this data set. And so now we have our average comment ranking by hacker name. So we can do something like average comment ranking just to get the numbers if you wanted to do that. It still gives you the hacker name here. And if we do something like hacker name, it gives an error message. So we know that we can work with this average right here using the comment ranking because it is considered a data frame. So we can take this information and put it in dictionary format. And I'm going to show you in a minute why putting it in a dictionary format to make it easier, because right here we have each hacker name, and then we have their average ranking. All right. And we want to take their average ranking and add it to the data set. Well, we want this average ranking to be associated with this hacker when we put it in our data set. So if I do hacker news dot head, so for example, right, this hacker's name appears multiple times and they have their average ranking for this hacker. Let's say this hacker appears 6 times on hacker name. Well, we want their average ranking to also appear 6 times. So we have to do a little bit of work to prepare our data so that if this hacker name appears 6 times, then the average ranking associated with this hacker name also appears 6 times. So we can do hacker news we can do length, and we can see that this data set is 230,000 pages long, but the length of our comment ranking is only 1,000. That's because we have 1,000 hackers, but there are about 230,000 comments, right? So which means a lot of hackers, their name pop up multiple times. So for every time their name shows up in hacker name, we want their corresponding comment ranking to also show up. So what I'm going to do in the next few sessions is just doing some work to prepare our data before we add it to our data frame. All right. So we are going to be using WAPs as an example here. Once we finish this data preparation process and add average ranking by user to our data set, we should see the same value for WAPs here and for WAPs here. All right, so we'll kind of use it as a test to make sure we are getting the right answer. So let's turn our average ranking, our average that we calculated, to a dictionary. So let's just call it average dictionary is equal to average comment ranking dot to dictionary, and here we can do average dictionary just to get a preview of what it looks like. So we can kind of see the hackers and the average ranking. As you can see, the thing we calculated earlier has been turned into a dictionary, and this is gonna be very, very helpful. And it looks like it has been alphabetized too. That's nice. So if we want to just get the users, the names of the players, right, we are going to get that in the keys. So here we can get a preview. So these are the names of the Hacker News users. So the keys contains the names and the value is the average ranking. So we can turn this into a list to use it. So let me go ahead and add a comment here so you remember. And we are basically turning user dictionary keys into a list. And turning it into a list will just make it easier to work with. I can loop through it and everything. There are some functions available with a list that's not available with a dictionary and vice versa. So sometimes you have to turn things into list and sometimes you have to turn things into dictionary for it to work. So let's call this user list and let's just get the top 10. So these are the top 10 users from this list. So basically took this right here and turned it into a list. So let me show you something very neat. So I don't know if you already know how to do this, but I'm still gonna show you to you. If I want to get the average for this particular person, all I have to do is average dictionary and I put in the key. Okay, so this is the average for this particular user. So if I want to get the average for this one user, I just type in the key and I get the value. So this is very important for you to remember because we're going to use this right now. So this is kind of like the final step. So basically, right, so we are saying that our users is this. So let me clarify this a little bit here. If I do length parenthesis user list, you see that this is 1000. All right, so we have 1000 unique users, but from our data frame, if I execute this from our data frame, actually I'll go ahead and do it here. If I do length of users, you see 230,000. So the data frame has 230,000 rows, so 230,000 comments total, and those 230,000 comments is by 1,000 unique hackers. All right, so I wanted to clarify that so you don't get confused. So our user list is the unique hacker names, and users is like all the hackers, no matter how many times they appear on our data frame. So then I'm gonna create an empty list that I'm going to add stuff to. So I'm gonna say for user and users, right? So basically I am saying for every single person, for every single user, for every single hacker in our data frame, I want you to run this line of code. So we want to say that their rank is equal to the average dictionary and their name. Okay, so basically, even before I proceed, let me go ahead and explain this code right here, so you don't get confused. I'm basically using this thing that I do right here. So basically, I'm replacing this key right here with the name of the hacker. All right. So maybe if I okay, so this is just a list of 10. Let's just do a list of 5. So basically what I'm doing right here, it says I'm saying for every person on this list, I want you to execute the lines of code inside. And basically I'm saying that their rank is the value associated with them from this dictionary, right? So for you to call a number, for you to get the value from a dictionary, you pass in the key. And in this situation, I'm saying that the key to get their average rank is this user, right? That's what I'm saying, user for user in users, for everybody in users. So this, every time this line of code runs, is going to take let's say the first time it runs, it's gonna take this name and replace and put it here. Second time it's gonna take this name and put it here. Third time it's gonna take this name and put it here, so forth and so on. So I want to make sure you understand what's going on here, right? And I may sound like a broken record repeating the same thing over and over again, but if you don't understand the code you are writing, or if you don't understand like how dictionaries work, or how to use for loops, or how to use list properly, then this tutorial is not going to be very helpful to you. That's why I'm trying to explain this. So user here and user rank here is just going to give us the value associated with that user. And I just want to round this value when it comes out. And I want it to round it to maybe 1 decimal place. I could have rounded it to 1 decimal place earlier, or 2 decimal places earlier, but doing it here is also fine. So basically, whenever we get the value, this user rank is going to be a value like this. It's going to be this long. Right? The value for each user is the average score for each user is going to be something this long, and I want to round it to 2 decimal places. And then I want to take the value for each user in this list of names and add it to our user ranking list. So let's go ahead and execute this. All right, that was faster than I thought it was gonna be. So here we have user ranking. Actually, since I ran that twice, we might get into it. Might have done it twice. So let me make sure. Okay, it still did it only once. Okay, that's good. So basically here, if we do user ranking, and this should be a list, and let's just do the top 10. So basically right here, we have the ranking associated with each user. And if I do the top 13, you can see the 0.68 is for WAP and 0.68 is also for WAP. So basically we've created a list that has the average ranking, the average score for each user, right? And we've gotten it into a list that we can add to our data frame. And let's go ahead and do that. So we say Hacker News is equal to, what did I call it? User ranking. And let's do hackernews.head. As you can see here, we have an additional column called average user score. And let's do the top 13 so you can see. So here you can see that WAPS is 0.68 and WAPS here is also 0.68. Now that you have a new data frame, right? Let's say you wanted to export to this data frame. I'm gonna show you how to export it. So let me go ahead and add comments here. So if you're looking at this code later, you know what's going on. Let's say let me tell you the truth. I found this code is from Stack Overflow. The first time I did this, I got this code from Stack Overflow and it works, so why not? So here you put an archive name, and then you, let's say this is the name that you give the file, and then you do something like how can you dot to CSV, and then you put in the name of the zip file. Let's just call it Hacker News. And do index equal to false, and then say compression is equal to compression and when you do the data frame to CSV, here in parentheses you get different options of what you can type in. So I just said no indexing. I want it to be stored in this zip file, and I want you to use this compression method. So if I was in my local computer, I'll run this and it will save it to the same directory that I'm working on. But here in Google Colab, which is online, I'm not quite sure where it's gonna save it or if it will run properly. So that's pretty much it. It was able to run. Let's look here and see. Maybe it was so yeah, so it was able to run. This was able to run even online, and the zip file was added here. So right now in Google Colab, this is being unzipped, and if we look inside, we might be able to see the Hacker News CSV file that we just exported. So while this is doing its thing, let me quickly recap what we did in today's video. So in today's video, we installed Vader sentiment analysis, and we got some data frame that is pre-cleaned already. We previewed the comments from Hacker News, right? We previewed how to get help on a new module that you're working with, and then we got the compound score, the polarity score for a sample comment. And then from what we read from the documentation, we found out that the compound score is basically a really good summary of everything. Like you don't have to use the negative score and positive score if you don't need it. And if you're working on a project and you need to use the negative score and positive score, go ahead and use it. But the compound score is basically a good indication of the overall score. And then yeah, we decided to use the compound score, and then instead of just using -1, we decided to multiply it by 10 to kind of make it easier to look at. And then we rounded the values by 2, and then we got the compound score for each comment. So basically this is the sentiment analysis part. So I'll go ahead and add a comment here that says really everything else here is just extra. So basically this is the sentiment analysis code where we got the compound score for every comment. So we got this scores for every comment, and then after that we added the score for every comment to our data frame, and then we decided to get the average score for each hacker, which is what we did here. So we got the average score for each hacker. So it looks like our Google unzipping thing is pretty much done, and it's giving us this prop file if you want to save it or if you want to open it. So if you wanted to save this file, after you click on it and after Google Colab is done with processing, it will give you this pop up asking if you want to save the file or if you want to open it. But I do not want to save this file, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cancel. And this is, if you wanted to export the file outside of Google Colab, export the finished CSV file outside of Google Colab. So we got the average ranking for each user by their name, and then we saw that the top comment, the top Hacker News commentator by frequency is TPTACEK. And after that, we got a preview of our comment ranking by name. So we saw that these are like the average ranking for these hackers, right? And then after that, we looked at how to turn our average ranking to a dictionary. And then we looked at how to extract value. So even before that, then we looked at how to just get the keys from a dictionary. So if you're looking at something like this is the key and this is the value. Well, this is not a dictionary. Let's see where my dictionary at. All right. If you're looking at a dictionary like this is the key and this is the value, right? So we looked at how to get just the keys, which is the usernames, and then we turned the dictionary keys into a list. And then we looked at how to get the value associated with each key. So basically the good thing about dictionaries is like you can get a value using the key. That's the primary method dictionaries function. And then we basically said that all the users is Hacker News, Hacker Name. So we ended up not using this, but I still wanted to kind of show you how to work with dictionary keys a little bit. And then we basically took the average score for each hacker and put it into a list using this line of code right here. And then after we took the average score for each hacker and put it into a list, we added that list to our data frame right here. And after adding the list to our data frame, I showed you how to export a data frame in Google Colab, or if you're even if you're working offline, this is still one method to export your data frame. And if you're in if you're working offline, this zip file will be located in the same directory that your code is in. But if you're working in Google Colab, it's going to be right here, and you can double click it and to download it for offline. That's basically it for this video. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, this blog post for this is going to be here very soon. Once I get some free time, I'm going to create a blog post about it and put it here. And this code right here will be on my GitHub repo, but I have so many repos on GitHub, it can get very difficult and very confusing to find which repo this code is in. And also, depending on what time you watch this video, like this repo could potentially be lost. So instead of just leaving it to chance, or instead of just leaving everything in my GitHub repo, I created my free data science resources platform, and you can find it at www.machinelearningeducation.com/free, machinelearningeducation.com/free. And here you'll find this code along with any other resources that I use in my tutorial. So if you go to my YouTube channel, or if you go to my blog post and you see any code or any tutorial or any resource, it's going to be found right here. So I created a single platform where I put all my code, all my videos, all my resources is right here. So any resource that I ever use is going to be found right here at machinelearningeducation.com/free. And you can also go to the homepage, which is www.machinelearningeducation.com, and click on free data science resources, and you'll still be able to get to this page. Or from my website, if you click on free data science resources, you'll still be able to get here. So basically, yeah, I have like free data science resources for you here. And of course, you can go to the GitHub repo for Vader sentiment to learn more about how to use it. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comment section below. And also, here in my free data science resources, there's a community where you can ask questions and I'll answer it. And also, other data scientists can also help you with your questions. Once again, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye.